My name is Alan Burt, and welcome to The Commerce Lab, the show for growth-minded e-commerce entrepreneurs who want to scale their business. After having worked with dozens of successful brands through my firm Blue Stout, I've been fortunate enough to see what it takes to successfully scale a physical products business into the 8 figures and beyond. On this show, we'll dive deep into the e-commerce economy to analyze the cutting-edge strategies of today's top-performing brands and the industry leaders who are engineering their growth. If you want actionable advice and tactics you can implement into your business today, then keep listening. If you want to join a mastermind of other entrepreneurs and leading brand owners, then join us in the Commerce Lab official community on Facebook or visit thecommercelab.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Commerce Lab. And today on the show, we have Kory Stevens from Taft Clothing. Now, Kory is a friend, a client, and somebody that I've been able to watch and see grow a tremendous business over the last couple of years, literally about as fast as anybody can. And we started working with Taft literally just less than 2 years ago, just as they were starting to see some real scale and traction. And in a very short period of time, been able to watch him scale his shoe business into the 8 figures, as well as go out and raise a $5 million investment round from some really noteworthy investors that include legendary NBA stars, etc. We break down exactly how he was able to do that today on the show. Now, selfishly, I really wanted to get Kory on the podcast for a few reasons, but mainly because he's a self-described accidental CEO, which I find very interesting. He's not one of those guys that went out specifically trying to build a business and become a mogul and take on a CEO role. Very much an accidental CEO. And he started the company with his wife directly out of school, out of college, with the goal of really providing an income, and never imagined it would turn into the success that it is today, and especially not as quickly as it did. He's incredibly open about his struggles scaling the business, his struggles managing depression, his personal struggles with depression over the last 15 years, while at the same time being able to grow a beautiful family. And we dig into that. And we talk about it because I wanted to know how he does it. How does he think about balancing being a family man and also building a really fast growing brand that now has investors? So we dive into it. So for those of you out there that feel like you're not into this specifically because you wanted to be this high flying CEO, but you're doing it with a passion for your family or a passion about a brand, I think you're really going to connect with Kory's story. Now, on the business side of things, we analyze a few areas that Taft really excels at. And those areas include their unique approach to supply chain and manufacturing, and specifically how Kory and their team have been able to launch anywhere from 2 to 3 new products a month while handling the inventory involved with that, all while still bootstrapping for the business for the first few years. And when I say unique, you'll have to actually listen to find out what I mean by that. But it's very much in line with how Kory approaches life and business in general. And I think you'll find it very, very interesting. We talk about why they raise money, why they raise venture, how they did it, and how are they able to actually not only pull on very noteworthy VCs, but also pull on some legendary NBA stars and what that means for the business and why they did it. And finally, this is something that absolutely everybody should listen to, this last piece. We, as a brand that has largely levered social, both organic and paid to scale, Taft is very good at social. We talk about how the recent rising acquisition costs, that rising customer acquisition costs that everybody is talking about. 2018 was sort of a reckoning in paid acquisition. And we talk about what happened with Taft. Did Kory see that affecting their business? And the short answer is it did. And we talk about what does that mean going forward in 2019? And where are they going to be putting their time and leveraging in order to continue to scale? So we talk about what their approach is going to be, how they look at working with folks like influencers on platforms like Instagram, how they see that changing and how they're adapting to that change and how they're going to be taking a very different approach to it. And also we talk a lot about things that don't quite necessarily scale, right? So we talk about what Taft is going to be doing to really leverage and connect with their most passionate fans and why they're doing it. And it's something that I think everybody can take away and start to factor into their own strategies as they're looking forward to scale over the next year or so. So please enjoy this very in-depth conversation with maybe the nicest and most authentic entrepreneur that I know, Kory Stevens from Taft. Hey, Kory, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, man. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you here. And we'll kind of get into kind of, our background and the full story on you. But to give everybody some context, just to get started, would love to, to just take a couple minutes and just give us your background. Who are you? What's your business? And what do you guys do?
Sure. So I'm Kory Stevens. I'm from Los Angeles. We currently live in Utah. So we run our brand out of Utah, which is quite unique for our space. We're a D2C footwear brand trying to make really unique shoes and offer something different other than, kind of plain brown, plain black stuff you can find in stores at any price point. When I design shoes, I try to be really purposeful about offering something unique. I'm married. I've been married for 7 years, and we have 3 children. I studied my undergrad degrees in linguistics, and I started Taft right out of school. So I don't do anything with linguistics other than speak Spanish with our factories, I guess. But yeah, man, I'm pumped to be here. We've been in business we started selling shoes 3 years ago.
Yep.
So before that, we had sold socks for about a year. Launched on Kickstarter, sold some socks, and then we launched shoes at the beginning of 2016. So it's been a great few years, and growth has been great. Team is great. So I'm really excited about where we're at, and I'm excited to chat today.
And if you've seen Taft and you've seen the shoes, I think it becomes pretty clear kind of what you guys do. But for people that are listening that maybe haven't seen your shoes or they haven't been to the site and they haven't experienced it, can you give us a little bit of background of what makes you guys unique? What is it about Taft that's different in the marketplace, or why do people love your product?
Sure. I mean, the whole mentality, jumping in, I never wanted to make shoes. It was not on my radar. I had no experience with it. But when we decided that we wanted to transition from socks to shoes, and we thought it'd be a big success for us, we had to offer something unique. Footwear is such a crowded space that if you just add to the noise, like the world does not need another $300 brown shoe company,
Right.
And so when we're small, we had to approach it from a unique angle, thinking, how can we offer something unique that will get attention, that will truly stand out amongst all the other shoe brands. There's so many of them. And so I design the shoes personally. We're a really small team. I still do all the designing. And so I just saw that in the footwear landscape, there's just so many, at any price point, at any store, you can pretty much find plain brown, plain black, cap toe, wingtips, brogues, whatever. It's all kind of the same. And the real only differentiator would be quality. And so I had these ideas in my head for something really unique. And so when I say unique and distinct, I really spend a lot of my time sourcing interesting materials, working with tanneries and mills to produce custom high quality stuff that you can't find anywhere else. And so it's really comes down to an interesting mix of materials. We use a lot of wool. We use a lot of, interesting suedes with unique finishes and prints and embossing. And so we didn't reinvent the shoe, but we spend a lot of our time figuring out and finding and sourcing really interesting raw materials.
I think what I love about what you guys do, I think we're in this influx right now where there's so many of these direct-to-consumer, and you kind of mentioned you guys are D2C, direct-to-consumer brands that are popping up that really aren't innovating on product, but are just really relying on branding and paid acquisition and marketing to go market share, right? And you guys, from the very beginning, took a totally different approach, which was, hey, there's tons of shoe brands out there, dress shoe, casual shoe brands out there. But what's the differentiator? What's missing? Where's that sort of gap and opening in the marketplace? And then you went out and you filled it by creating and designing these shoes. And what I think what's even more impressive is that it's not like you guys have 3 or 4 of these that you just constantly sell. You're consistently innovating, and you're releasing shoes at a pace that I think is it's incredible to watch. How often are you guys releasing a new design or testing a new design and releasing it in the market?
I mean, I'm always designing. I'm always combing and looking for inspiration, and so I'm literally always designing. I'm in my office right now, and literally there's dozens of swatches all over the floor. So I'm always designing, and we're releasing. I mean, I would say 2 to 3 styles a month.
Okay.
Whether it is, whether it's a new colorway, or a totally new style. I mean, we're always trying to identify what's going to work, what didn't work, and move on from the ones that don't work, rather than we have such a close relationship with our factory.
Yeah.
I'm literally, he's one of my best friends, the factory owner. I talk to him every day. And so because of that close relationship, it allows us to be much more agile and nimble and flexible than a typical shoe company that's, ordering 9 months to a year in advance, already thinking about fall 2020. I'm thinking about Q2, right, because we have such a quick turnover, and we're just so really flexible. And so we lean into that. We're small and we have some advantages. And so rather than just be really stagnant and planning way ahead, we're able to be reactive a bit and really be on the offensive in terms of what we release and what we produce and what we restock and things like that.
So I think and I'd love to dive into that for a second, because I think there's a lot there. First off, for an early stage brand, so let's say a brand that's received a little bit of success, maybe they've hit their first million, maybe they're doing between 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. One of the big choking points is inventory, right?
Totally.
And being able to hold it, right? I'm sure this is a massive pain you guys have seen over the last few years. How do you balance? And a lot of ways that brands balance that is really by reducing SKU count, right? By focusing on very specific products, only releasing one or only having a couple products at a time. Look at guys like Allbirds, right?
Yep, Allbirds has championed that. I mean, they have a few models, a bunch of colorways, and they just push them like crazy.
Right. So how have you guys been able to innovate so quickly, release products so quickly, especially in the early days prior to raising funding, which we can talk about later?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I mean, I think when I think about something like Allbirds, they've kind of, I mean this, I love that brand, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they've kind of commoditized that product a bit. And so it's like, it can be there forever and people are just going to keep buying it. It's not like highly innovative in terms of the way it looks. Obviously, the raw materials are really something special, but for us, our audience these are really unique, and either you love them or you hate them. And so we have to keep innovating and keep offering new things, because we're trying to find what are going to become those Jupiter staple products for us. Yeah. But we have to keep testing and seeing what works. We're still very much in the exploration stage. We don't know what's going to work. Maybe we end up a clothing company. Maybe we end up making footwear, shoe care kits. I don't know, but we're still very exploratory. The interesting thing about us is we went from, speaking to the pain points of inventory, we went from producing a product in China that costs $1 to make in socks, and then going to shoes, which costs us well over $100 to make, between 1 and 200, sometimes even pushing 200. And so, you can imagine we used to order, $1 products, and now we're ordering $100 of product. And so inventory is a huge stressor. And we've tended to, when we think about supply and demand, we've tended to undersupply, because at this point, if you take some massive risk on inventory, it can still cripple us, and so while we're still, even though we've raised some money and we have, a lot of customers, we're still being pretty reserved and conservative on our inventory purchases, because at this point, a few huge misses could really hurt us. And so we're still kind of undersupplying a little bit on some things, just to make sure we can figure out what our strategy is, make sure we nail our customer acquisition, and then we can scale from there.
Do you think you'd be able to do that without that close relationship with your manufacturing arm?
No way, man. That for me, when I think about what makes us special at Taft, is the close relationship I have with the factories. So we have 2 factories in Spain, 1 factory in Portugal, and I'm literally on WhatsApp with these guys probably a dozen times a day. And I've taken my family to these factories. We've spent a weekend at the factory owner's grandpa's, ranch house. Like that's awesome. We are friends and family, and as close of a relationship as we have with our employees here in the office, I feel even closer with some of the factory workers. So That is absolutely critical, and that is something that makes us really unique. Most factories in the world do not want to be flexible. They want to make the same thing over and over, and just get into a groove. They don't want to be custom making stuff. They don't want to do one-offs. They don't want to make samples. And so for us, we nailed the manufacturing relationships early, and now it's working to our benefit.
And that was going to be my question. Was that done purposefully, or is that just because it feels like, honestly, it just sort of feels in alignment with who you are as a person, just kind of operating under the nice guy principles, right?
Yeah.
Like developing relationships.
Yeah, that's right. It was not super intentional. It was just like, I love people. I speak Spanish, and I anytime you speak a language, and people appreciate that. And so, I went to Spain. I booked my first tickets when we were in the hospital with our second baby. So we had a baby. She arrived safely, and so I was like, okay, I got to go to Spain and meet these people. And so we went, and then the next trip I brought my family, and it wasn't like some crafty, manipulative, like, let's get in with the factory. It was like, hey, I love people, and I'm gonna, I think I could help their business, and I think they can certainly help my business. And they took a chance on me, and I took, a chance on them. And now it's, we're family. It wasn't deliberate. It was just like, hey, if I'm going to work with people, let's freaking love them all, And so that's just what it's become.
No, I love that. I think I think to a lot of other entrepreneurs that are trying to scale a business too, I think at least a lot of ones we talk to, I think about it in a very sort of analytical, pure numbers standpoint.
Totally.
And the reality is, you guys wouldn't be able to do what you do if that's how you would ended up approaching it, right? And approaching it from a very relationship driven standpoint is one of the reasons why you've been able to do what you guys do.
Yeah, that's right, man. I mean, we are human. We're real. We're honest. We're transparent. It's definitely a collaborative relationship. They need help. We need help, and so it's worked out really nicely. In
the ability for you guys to release as many shoes as you do, right? So kind of almost looking at the other end of the spectrum on this, because if you follow you guys, if you follow Taft on social or on Instagram, that's an absolute strength. Right.
Yeah.
And you guys are constantly kind of showing the backstory. You're constantly showing how you're innovating on new product and designing new product. I know, again, I don't know the numbers behind you guys, but I've got to assume that, the ability to release more product that fast has to affect customer lifetime value, right? Because people aren't just coming in and, buying a pair of Allbirds till they wear out, right? It's very much I'm going to buy this pair because these are my work shoes, or I've got I'm going to a wedding this weekend, I'm going to get this pair. And it's very much like this inspiration cycle where they're seeing what you guys are producing, releasing, going, oh my gosh, I have to have those also, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's not like, the way I think about it is, you have your pair of brown shoes, you have your pair of black shoes, you have your one or two staples you wear to work or whatever. And then I want Taft to be pairs 3 through 10.
Yeah.
You have your basics covered, and then it's like, okay, let's do something a little different. Let's mix it up with a new color, or let me try something that's woven or camo or something special. And so you're absolutely right. We release so often that the goal is that anytime someone comes to the website, it's totally different. If someone bought 6 months ago and they come to the site, that shoe may still be there, but there's going to be a bunch of new stuff they've never seen before. And so always trying to keep it fresh. We're very transparent. Speaking to Instagram, I think that when you see hundreds of thousands of followers, you assume, oh, this business is huge and they're structured. But our social is very open and honest and transparent. I'm looking for feedback. I'm looking for collaboration, crowdsourced ideas. We're operating, we've had a little bit of success, but we're operating very much like a small mom and pop business. And that's very intentional. And I think that that's what our customers have really come to.
So let's sort of shift gears for a second, because I want to talk about, because you guys have obviously gone through a couple of growth stages, and a year and a half ago or whenever it was that we were working together, that was a very different stage for Taft than where you guys are now. And since then, you guys have gone out, you've raised some money, you've raised some venture from some very interesting people, including some NBA stars, right?
Yeah, that's right.
would love to hear maybe a little bit of how that came to be and how you got those guys involved. And then would love to hear kind of why you ended up raising money. Why not continue to bootstrap?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so we launched shoes at the beginning of 2016, and all of 2016, Taft started getting on the radar of some, VCs and people that were interested in D2C brands and things. But I just did not want to raise, I put so much pressure. Taft is really difficult for me. It's not natural. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't think of myself as a great leader. And so I just was like, you know what, we're not going to raise money. Let's just grow it, slowly and gradually and not take on any more pressure. Right? There's already enough pressure that I put on myself. And so I would take meetings and I would meet people and I would take phone calls and things. But we just told people we're not interested. And then, 2017, we grew a lot and we got on more people's radar and more of those phone calls were happening. And I met a few people that I really, really connected with, much beyond footwear, more emotionally and mentally. Just, we had a good connection. I really liked these people. And so, we pushed it off for a long time. We were just saying, no. And then 2018, we realized like, man, you know what? I think that if we were to raise money, we could grow faster. And I think that we have the support around me that I'd be okay with a little bit more pressure. And so, we eventually kind of got worn down and convinced to raise. And we were able to, because we waited for so long, we were able to kind of pick and choose the best people that made the most sense for us. So we were really, really choosy, we were really specific about who we wanted in. And so at the end of Q1 last year, we closed our seed round, a $5 million seed round.
And how did you guys get the NBA players involved? And I don't know, maybe it's just one player, but how did that
so it's Andre Iguodala and Dwayne Wade, two veteran superstars, man. So we've actually had a lot of kind of organic, natural success with professional athletes, mainly in the NBA and NFL. We have a lot of those guys following us and interacting with me in DMs and have become customers, and we custom make stuff for these guys. And so a lot of them were familiar with the product. And one of our investors is good friends with a lot of these guys. And so when we decided, we're having success with athletes, why don't we bring a couple athletes into the round to kind of lean into that advantage? I think that from a dress shoe standpoint, obviously athletes are big into sneakers, and a lot of them have deals with Nike and Adidas and Reebok or whoever. But on the dress shoe standpoint, none of those guys seem to have that much going on. But these guys are fashion icons. Mm-hmm. Professional athletes are very innovative in the fashion and menswear scene, and so I decided that I wanted to get a couple of them in. I wanted to get some really significant guys with a lot of history in the league and a lot of influence. And so we were fortunate enough to get Dwayne Wade and Dre in the round last year.
So you were basically, because of the popularity of the product, the design of the product, these guys are just naturally customers, right? And that's how this evolved over time, as you just saw a trend where these players were starting to wear Taft, and that then is what led you down that road.
Yeah, that's right. We were just, if you look at, I have visibility into it obviously, but if you look at our Instagram account is so critical. It's how we found our factories. It's how we found some of our investors. It's how we've obviously connected with tens of thousands of our customers. And so Instagram is critical for that, man. These guys, because of our big social account, and our pictures get shared a lot. And so all of a sudden we've had some really massive superstars with huge Instagram accounts following us and engaging with us. And so it was a pretty natural transition from like, hey, you like the product, you like what we're doing, we're going to raise some money and we want a couple professional athletes and we want you in. We sent them the deck and their team looked it over and they decided that they wanted to be involved.
do you guys approach Instagram like other brands do in the sense of going after influencers and kind of creating an influencer network? Or how do you guys think about expanding that influence across Instagram?
That's a good question, man. I mean, when I have a love-hate relationship with influencers on Instagram. I think that I think a lot of people do right now. Yeah, personally, I really struggle with it. It's hard for me to, I follow the menswear influencers seem closest, but it's really hard. Consumers are really smart. And so when they see Alan posting about one company one day, and then the next day saying that its competitor is the best shoe company he's ever worn, and then the next day it's another shoe brand, like consumers see right through that. There's no loyalty, there's no fidelity. And I really struggle with that. This is my baby. This is my heart and soul. It's what I think about and sleep about all the time. And so it's hard for me to say, hey, I want to give you some product. Will you push it? When I know that they're pushing competitors' product and, who knows? It's just not, it's not super honest to me. And so we haven't done much with influencers. But this year we're going to try and figure out how to do it. I think that there's a right way to do it, and we're kind of honing in on how we're going to do that for this year. And I think that influencer and affiliate is going to be a big piece of our business. But I don't want to do it in the traditional way because I think that our consumers are just too smart to treat them like that, to send kind of rival products to the same person, expect them both to rep it. It's like it's a bit dishonest to me, and so I struggle with it. I have a love-hate relationship, and still trying to figure out how it will work for Taft.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a reckoning in the influencer space, and I think this is the year that you're going to start to see that. And I'm really interested to see what you guys do, because given your relationship approach and your focus on authenticity, I'm very curious to see how you guys set up that strategy. Because I think if anybody could do it right, it would be you guys.
Oh, yeah, thanks, man. It's going to be big. It's going to be a big part of our business, but it's going to be a little different. And so, man, I'm pumped too, because it's this whole green pasture that we haven't pursued at all. And so I think it's going to really add to the business. I'm excited.
And so you guys launched shoes in 2006 or 2016, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
So we just finished up 2018 as recording. It's, January 2019. And obviously, and you were mentioning earlier, from a broad range revenue standpoint, 2018, you guys were in that sort of 10 to 20 million range in revenue. That's right, pretty fast, and that's fast growth, right? And you only raised money about a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. A little less than a year ago. What were sort of those main inflection points between 2016 launch and raising money that helped you scale, right? So obviously you guys you did socks before, then you did shoes, started selling shoes, started seeing some traction. But on the marketing front, what really worked? Was there any sort of singular strategy that just for you guys is what helped you scale until funding? Or was it just a kind of a hodgepodge of everything you were doing? Or did things sort of stand out? I'm just curious what you saw that worked during that time.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. And so recently I actually heard from Andy Dunn, the founder of Bonobos, and he was asked the same question. He was like, no, at no point did I feel a difference. At no point did I feel like, okay, we've turned a corner. It was just grinding for every single sale, every single day.
Yeah.
And for Taft, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Looking back on the last couple of years, I mean, when you're in the trenches of a small business, it is just painful grinding away every day. I'm checking sales every 90 seconds. It feels like fighting for every sale. And so, I mean, we've really been dependent on social. We're going to try and diversify and move away from a lot of that, just with the volatility with Facebook and Instagram and all things always changing. And so we're trying to diversify this year. But I would just say, we leaned into social and we had a lot of success there. And our product it really stands out in a visual format like that. And so we just try and get our pictures everywhere we can and raise awareness that way. But, and I still feel like we're in day one, grinding away, trying to make it to dinner time pretty much. And I don't know, maybe someday I'll have a better answer for you. But right now, man, we're still just in grind away mode. I don't feel, any sort of corners being turned or any sort of plateaus being hit. It's just boom, wake up each day, work hard, work with the team, be honest with our customers and our audience, and just keep going for it, man.
Did you guys feel a squeeze in 2018 with the changes that are happening on Facebook? Just the overwhelming kind of the cost rising for customer acquisition, right? So everybody right now, it seems like it's the constant theme everybody's talking about is rising customer acquisition costs. Did you guys feel that in 2018 also?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we all of a sudden, things that were reliable growth levers for us were no longer reliable, and so we had a killer year. But it just doesn't feel as sustainable as it once did. Mm-hmm. And so we're just excited to figure out where our audience is, where they want us to be, and how we can connect with them beyond, Facebook and Instagram.
Do you have any thoughts on how you guys are thinking about that 2019 that you're able to share? For me, so this last year in September 18, we went to California, and on a Saturday we had this big event in Santa Monica, and on Sunday, the next day, we had this event in San Francisco. We packed up a truck of product and the team, and we drove down. We drove from Santa Monica to San Francisco overnight and popped up in San Francisco. And dude, it was incredible. We had, I know every brand probably says this, but I truly feel like our customers are just the best in the world. These are just, it was incredible. Like for me, we don't have, being an online brand, we don't have that joy of seeing someone open a shoebox, try them on, tell their friends about them, purchase, smile, walk out, maybe wearing them, And so for me, it was like the first physical, what does Taft look like in real life? And dude, it was like, personally, it was so fulfilling and encouraging for me. And so, this year we're going to do some more physical stuff. I don't know what form that's going to take, whether it's an actual store, whether it's pop-ups, whether it's, weekend stop-in somewhere, whether it's pizza and beer parties with our customers around the country, popping into some of the secondary markets and just throwing little parties and hanging out and maybe having a DJ there. Like we're really trying to be thoughtful and creative about it. We've always, we make such an effort to be different with our product that we're trying to be different with everything we do. And so it's not going to be the normal, pop-up. It's not going to be the normal retail store. It's going to be something really special. And so I would say, one thing I could speak to would be just trying to be more present physically for our customers. And with footwear, you want to see it, you want to try it on. I think there's a huge percentage of men that want to try it on before they buy, and that's understandable. Before this, I wouldn't have bought shoes online. And so I want to be that. I think that we've kind of let our customers down in some ways regarding that. And so I want to be there for them this year more than we have in the past. So something I want to touch on before we wrap up, because I think this is, in fact, it's one of the, other than just having worked with you and wanting to get you on the show, but just seeing how you operate is something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs could learn from. And the way that you approach this, and you almost kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It's almost like you were like the accidental CEO, right? Like you didn't start.
Dude, totally.
You're going to be, that this was going to become an 8-figure brand as fast as it did. And you're going to be sort of forced in this position of raising money, right? And so I think that, because of that though, it's tailored the way that you operate. That I think is truly remarkable because it is so different. And I think a lot of people who do want to be CEOs, right, that do want to own their own company, that maybe are afraid to do it, or maybe, brands that have kind of reached that peak where they're at $1 million or at 2 million and they're trying to decide what to do next. Do they go raise money? Do they, how do they scale, but not sort of tear their life apart or sort of sell themselves to investors at the same time? And I think, you just mentioned to me before the call, you guys just had your third child, 6 weeks ago. Yeah. So family is obviously incredibly important, and that balance is incredibly important. And I'd love to talk a little bit about how you view that and how you view, because your wife, I know, was the co-founder. She's an integral part of the business, although she may not be as day-to-day as you are. I'd love to talk about how you think about structuring work-life balance in while running as fast of a brand as you do?
Man, dude, that's a great question. I appreciate your kind words. You're exactly right, man. I never ever intended to do this. This is not. It's not. I was just not intentional or deliberate or something. I kind of stumbled into it, and all of a sudden, we're a few years in, and I'm kind of looking up, like, man, is this what I want? Is this what I want it to be? Is this what I want to be doing? Does this make me happy? Is this great for my family? And so, like this last year, I was the Forbes 30 under 30 for e-commerce, and it was like, no, I'm not this guy. Like, I think you have it wrong. I think that you need to be looking at my team and those around me, because Taft is really difficult for me emotionally and mentally and physically. I put tremendous amounts of stress on me. I'm a perfectionist to a fault, and I obsess over my mistakes. I obsess over our problems. And so when you get into a company where it's just, being an entrepreneur is just literally being okay with solving problems every day. Just every time you come to the office, it's just a problem and a problem and a problem and a problem, and it never ends. And so that's a tiring grind. And a lot of times it's very uncomfortable for me. I've been quite open about my I've struggled with depression for about 15 years, and Taft has just made it worse and worse. And so for me, the analogy I think about is like I got on this horse and it just started sprinting a few years ago. And all of a sudden I get off the horse and I'm like, man, is this the horse I wanted? Is this where I wanted to go? Is this what I wanted to be wearing when I was on the horse? It's just, I'm trying to be more thoughtful about it. And for me, man, this is a great question. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think that, we're really honest and personal and human on our social accounts. The brand is very honest. We are human first. We are real and we're honest, and we're not trying to be someone we're not. We're just a small shoe brand based out of Utah, trying to do the best we can and trying to kind of spread joy through footwear. And when I think about work-life balance, I mean, I get home and I try and just put my phone away, and I am a father before anything else. I am a husband and a father, much more importantly, and way ahead of being a CEO or a founder or a boss. And my children are way more important than my shoes. And I don't let that get in the way. I do pride myself on being a good husband and a good father. And that's where my priorities are. And so, Taft is kind of secondary for me, honestly. I would say we do a good job of figuring out ways for family to be involved. Our office is full of toys and treats. Right on my desk right now, I have a Lightning McQueen car. I have this ball toy that my daughter likes. I have paintings that they did in my office. Kids are, we have lots of parents on our team. Kids are coming into the office all the time. We have lots of snacks and toys and things. And even our shoes, Taft is my son's middle name. Jack, Troy, those are family members. Mac is named after Mac from Cars. The Hero.
These are all names of your shoes.
That's right. Yeah. Hero. The Hero boot is named after Hiro Hamada from Big Hero 6, one of my son's favorite movies. Dragon boot, Viking boot, those are from How to Train Your Dragon. We make sure we infuse the humanity of it all into our brand. And, we're just doing the best we can, man. That's a really good question, and I wish I had a really thoughtful answer for you. But
I think that was pretty thoughtful. I think that was pretty cool. I was actually at an event this past weekend in LA with about 30 other entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs, and that topic came up about family and how do you balance family and work life. And somebody had a great answer, which was you don't. Right? It's ultimately you integrate the two. But you find a way to integrate it that's healthy for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a stigma that, for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of CEOs, if you look sort of in the past, the way it's always presented is that you have to keep them separate, right? You go to work and then you come home and there's a line between them, and you have to divide that in your brain. And you have to, compartmentalize in order to focus on one, to focus on the other. And I think that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs, and frankly, maybe even just unsustainable. But if you can find a way to integrate family into that, I think there's actually a huge opportunity to teach your kids about entrepreneurship, right? And if they can come into the office and have that experience with you without it feeling like, dad's off of work and he's not at home, I think there is a strong way to do that. And there were a lot of guys in this event that were talking about how they make that happen at home. And somebody who has, how old's your oldest right now?
My oldest is 5.
5, yeah. So you have 3 under the age of 5, right?
That's right.
Is there anything other than, kind of making the office kid friendly, are there any other sort of things that you've done or you've found over the last few years for whether it's sort of routine or there's the way that you approach, like very specific tactics? Is there anything that you do specifically that's made that, that balance or that lifestyle easier about having both family and a fast growing business?
I mean, my kids, they've come to the factories with me. They've traveled to Europe, which is a lot of fun. They know footwear. I mean, they're little salespeople themselves. They love Taft and they love our shoes and they want to wear it. My son is always like, Dad, I need a red boot. I don't have a red boot. And they're aware that what we do, and it's interesting and it's unique and it's cool that they're going to grow up telling their friends that, like, yeah, my mom and my dad sell shoes and I'm cool with that. Like, I think that's sweet. So we definitely involved in, Jack, Troy, those are his cousins. He always asks for a Jeremiah boot or a J boot, or, the whole business is named after him. And Gemma, my daughter's always asking for, shoes, and she sees her mom get custom shoes and she wants, shoes for herself. And, there's no way to hide this. My wife and I, the Taft dominates our discussions. It dominates dinner table conversations. There's no way to hide it. We can't separate it. But for me, it's like, dude, I sell shoes. At the end of the day, I sell shoes. I'm not changing the world. I'm not, the shoes, Taft could crumble. Taft could just go away, but my kids and my family will never go away. And so it's like, we gotta remember that that's what's important. Just like when people say, when you die, your money doesn't go with you. Well, if Taft goes, Taft is gone, but my kids and my family are forever. And so, it's not hard to prioritize people over shoes, thankfully. So I just try and keep a really realistic, healthy perspective on that. And it helps me remember what's most important to me and where to put my time and priorities.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, Kory, I know you're a busy guy, so I'm gonna let you go. This was a ton of fun, and we'll have to do this again. The only other question I had is, if I were to go and buy a pair of Tafts, which pair should I buy? What is your favorite, or what do you think my favorite should be?
Oh,
that might be a hard question.
Oh, dude, you're in Oregon? Portland?
Yeah, Portland. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you gotta have the Dragon boot, man. The
Dragon boot.
It's waterproof. It's this heavy day-night sole. It's crazy, dude. It's this wax suede, Goodyear welted, crazy value for the money. It's our most expensive shoe, but it deserves a price tag much higher than $350. It's a special boot. It's what, if I look around the office right now, I see like 3 or 4 people wearing the Dragons themselves. It's kind of the boot of choice right now for everyone in the office. So I would definitely say Dragon. They'd be the right fit for you.
Sweet. Awesome. I'll have to check them out. Cool, man. Well, this was a ton of fun, Kory. Thanks for being on here.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Man, I'm stoked.
If people want to, engage with you or learn more about you or learn more about Taft, where should we send them?
You can send them. So I handle our Instagram still. So if you want to shoot us a DM, I'm there. My personal Instagram account is Kory Stevens, Kory. Kory Stevens, you can hit me up there. Although, people often tell me that they hope to go see cool shoe stuff behind the scenes of Taft on my personal account, but it's really just like pictures of my children. Yeah, man, and Kory at taftclothing.com, Kory, taftclothing.com. You can shoot me an email. I'm happy. Alan, you've been a good supporter, a good friend of mine, so I'm happy to engage with anyone you send my way.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. So, Kory, have an awesome week, man, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Commerce Lab. To connect with myself or the team here at Blue Stout, visit us at bluestout.com. To join a community of like-minded e-commerce entrepreneurs and other brand owners just like you, join the Commerce Lab official community on Facebook or visit us at thecommercelab.com.